They reduced African American food to just a plate of fried chicken and cornbread. They never told you about the hidden kitchen history, the recipes that carried families through slavery, Jim Crow segregation, and lean years when every meal was a test of survival. These weren't just suppers. They were blueprints for endurance, cooked in cast iron and handed down without a single measuring cup. From hot water cornbread sizzling like lightning in a cast iron skillet to blackberry dumplins that tasted like stolen summer nights, every bite was a victory over poverty, erasure, and time itself. Scope News is pulling the lid off a kitchen history America tried to leave behind. 21 lost African American recipes Granny ate and the world forgot. Hot water cornbread, aka mutton. The sound came first, a sharp hiss as cornmeal batter met scalding grease, music older than any cookbook. Hot water cornbread, sometimes called mutton, was a triumph of thrift and memory. Born when enslaved Africans had little but cornmeal, boiling water, and salt, it turned scarcity into golden satisfaction. During Jim Crow, when many black families cooked over wood fires or simple stovetops, this bread meant dinner could be pulled from the ashes of very little. Still warm, still defiant, still feeding whole households on pennies. Smothered turkey wings. When whole turkeys were too costly, families turned to the wings, the most flavorful cut hiding in plain sight. Smothered turkey wings became Sunday dinner royalty in decades when segregation locked black households into low wages and small kitchens. Seasoned with the likes of garlic and pepper, bell peppers and onions to name a few, these turkey wings paired very well with white rice and gravy. Chicken dressing, some folks call it stuffing. Say stuffing if you dare, but in many southern black kitchens, it was and remains dressing, full stop. Born of ingenuity during Reconstruction and hardened through Jim Crow, chicken dressing carried both comfort and quiet defiance. Days ahead, cornbread was baked and left to dry, then crumbled with diced celery, onions, fresh sage, and sometimes chopped boiled eggs. A whole chicken simmered with bay leaf and black pepper until the broth turned liquid gold. Shredded chicken folded back into the mixture with that rich stock and a few beaten eggs. Baked until the top browned and the center stayed tender, it became the taste of holidays and homecomings, an unmistakable marker of black Southern gatherings where measurements came from the heart and the first spoonful was a prayer. Salmon croquettes or salmon patties. Before seafood counters gleamed with ice, canned salmon was the prize that let families eat like royalty. In the mid-20th century, when Jim Crow housing covenants squeezed black families into tight city blocks, a single can of pink salmon could stretch to feed 5. Mixed with breadcrumbs, diced onion, a splash of milk, and a whisper of lemon, the patties were pan-fried until their crust sang with crunch. Some added bell pepper or Old Bay, others guarded spice blends like heirlooms. Served hot with biscuits or cold on white bread for Monday lunches, salmon croquettes proved that a modest pantry could still deliver glamour. Gumbo. Part West Africa, part French Bayou, and entirely homegrown resistance. Gumbo arrived with enslaved Africans and simmered through centuries of hardship. Each pot a testimony that culture cannot be erased. The roux, flour stirred in hot fat until the color of dark mahogany, set the foundation. Into it went the holy trinity of onion, bell pepper, and celery, joined by garlic, smoked sausage, shrimp, or chicken when possible. Okra brought from Africa thickened the broth into velvet. Filet powder from sassafras deepened it further. Gumbo bubbled for hours, perfuming neighborhoods and feeding many from one pot, proof that identity can survive any border. Rice pudding. Sweetness, born of thrift. In kitchens where every grain counted, leftover rice became dessert. Grandmother simmered it with milk, sugar, cinnamon, and vanilla until the grain swelled and the house filled with a scent as warm as a hug. Raisins or lemon peel sometimes joined the pot, but the soul of rice pudding was patience. Macaroni salad. Before store-bought tubs, macaroni salad reigned over picnic tables and repasts. Elbow pasta was boiled, cooled, and folded with diced celery, onion, sweet relish, and hard-boiled eggs, bound with mayonnaise and a splash of vinegar or mustard. Born in Great Migration cities where black families stretched tight budgets, this chilled salad traveled well to church basements, funerals, and reunions. Cool, creamy proof that hospitality didn't need a hot stove. Crackling cornbread. This is cornbread with memory and muscle. Leftover pork fat and crisp cracklings folded into cornmeal batter created salty pockets inside golden squares. A sizzling cast iron skillet set the crust, while buttermilk lent tang. Through slavery, Reconstruction, and Jim Crow, crackling cornbread transformed a side dish into a centerpiece, rich enough to stand as supper beside greens or beans, proof that nothing went to waste. Sweet potato bread. If sweet potato pie was Sunday luxury, sweet potato bread was everyday grace. Mashed roasted sweet potatoes, already rich with natural sugars, were stirred into flour, eggs, and warm spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. Sweetened with brown sugar or molasses, the loaf baked fragrant and moist, carrying autumn warmth to breakfast tables and church socials. It proved that abundance could live inside the ordinary. Smoked neck bones. Flavor lives in the bone. Smoked pork neck bones, once discarded as butcher's waste, became treasures in black kitchens. Slowly simmered with onions, garlic, and maybe a few greens or beans, they released deep smoky richness into every bite. Red drink from sumac berries. Before Kool-Aid, before red sodas, there was the original red drink steeped from wild sumac berries. Tart and brilliantly colored, it carried echoes of West African hibiscus traditions and Juneteenth celebrations. Blackberry dumplins. This treat was definitely summer in a pot. Children returned from berry picking with purple-stained hands, and grandmothers dropped biscuit dough into a simmering blackberry syrup until fluffy dumplings soaked up every drop. Served warm with cream, it was both dessert and story time, proof that fleeting seasons and hard labor could yield something unforgettable. Hoe cake. Born in the fields and baked on the back of a hoe, this cornmeal flatbread was survival itself. Just cornmeal, salt, and water, sometimes a splash of buttermilk, fried until crisp at the edges and soft within. Fried fatback. Where others saw scraps, black cooks saw possibility. Thin strips of pork fat, seasoned and fried until glassy and crackling, became both seasoning and snack. Southern hush puppies. No fish fry was complete without them. Golden brown hush puppies, those bite-sized cornmeal fritters, brought the sound of laughter and sizzling oil to porches and churchyards across the South. Born from the same ingenuity that shaped hoe cakes, they started as a way to stretch cornmeal batter and silence hunger between meals. Some say the name comes from cooks tossing pieces to hush barking dogs. Mixed with buttermilk, onion, and a pinch of sugar, the batter was dropped into bubbling oil until crisp outside and tender inside. Frayed okra. Okra's African roots run deep, and frying turned its earthy pods into pure delight. Sliced, tossed in cornmeal, and dropped into hot oil, it emerged golden and crisp, a vegetable with a crunch loud enough to silence the table. Succotash. Corn and beans, bright with garden flavor and history older than the United States. Black cooks blended indigenous knowledge with African seasoning, sautéing corn, lima beans, onion, and bell pepper in butter or bacon drippings. Pound cake. Dense, buttery, and regal, pound cake was a celebration in every slice. A pound each of butter, sugar, eggs, and flour gave the cake its name and its rich crumb. Whether served plain, glazed with lemon, or updated with soda pop twists, pound cake graced weddings, funerals, and Sunday tables. Its longevity proof of black bakers' skill and grace. Modern favorites include versions such as Sock It to Me or 7-Up variations also. Turnip greens with rutabagas. Before collards claimed the spotlight, turnip greens with rutabagas were the heart of many southern pots. Cleaned carefully, seasoned with smoked meat, and simmered until tender, they offered vitamins, warmth, and prosperity symbolism on New Year's Day. Banana pudding. The undisputed finale of countless church suppers and family reunions. Layers of vanilla wafers, sliced bananas, and rich homemade custard crowned with meringue or whipped cream. Served chilled, it delivered sweetness and cool comfort, a southern masterpiece that turned everyday fruit into an heirloom dessert. Bread pudding. The art of never wasting bread. Cubes of day-old loaf soaked in milk, sugar, eggs, and warm spices until custardy, then baked until golden and fragrant. Sometimes dotted with raisins, sometimes drizzled with bourbon sauce, bread pudding turned the ordinary into elegance, proof that frugality can taste like celebration. If these recipes call to mind the smell of your grandmother's kitchen or the memory of a family gathering, you understand why they matter. Each dish carries the story of a people who turned scarcity into art and hardship into heritage. They are edible history, proof that the past still lives at the table. Scope News tells the truth. Here are the facts. This report draws on oral history, family recipes, and archival food ways research, including regional cookbooks, historical agricultural records, and African American culinary studies that trace enslaved cooking traditions through Reconstruction, Jim Crow, and the Great Migration. Portions of historical cooking demonstrations and documentary clips were reviewed under fair use for educational and commentary purposes. If you are a rights holder with questions about footage or images used under fair use, please reach out to Scope News for review or credit adjustments. Every effort was made to ensure accuracy and to honor the families and communities who preserved these recipes. Legal disclaimer: this report is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes. It reflects historical and cultural research drawn from respected sources and oral traditions, but may include details that vary by family, region, or era. Viewer discretion is advised, as some subjects address systemic racism, poverty, and survival. Scope News strives to honor these histories accurately while recognizing that recipes, names, and traditions evolve and that some imagery may differ from the realities described. Nothing here substitutes for professional dietary, health, or legal advice. By engaging with this content, you acknowledge these limitations and join us in preserving and respecting the legacy of African American food culture.